Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Bob's Kebabs. That's right, there once was a man named Bob who showed me how to make this kebab. He wasn't the chef. The chef's name was Jeff, but still he did a great job. And while I'm not able to tell you too much about Bob, due to some very strict non-disclosure agreements, I am very excited and very happy to be able to share this recipe. And now that grilling season's upon us, this is definitely something you're going to want to work into the rotation. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by mixing up our spice blend, which is going to start with some ground cumin, a little bit of coriander, some Aleppo chili flakes, a generous amount of kosher salt, as well as, of course, a little shake of cayenne. And then last but not least, Bob's secret ingredient, a very small pinch of cinnamon. Okay, if you can taste the cinnamon, you put too much. But just a little tiny hint in the background really works well here. And then what we're going to do after we give this a mix is use our spoon to push off about 1/3 of the mixture to the side. And the reason for that is we're going to use 2/3 to season the meat, and then the other third will get sprinkled on the outside before our kebabs get grilled. Okay, so once we have that separated, we'll go ahead and take a pound of ground meat. In my case, lamb, but you can also use beef, or a combination of both, which is very nice. And like I said, we'll go ahead and transfer over 2/3 of our spice mix, along with 2 tablespoons of very cold fresh water. And that's it. Once we drizzle that in, we'll take 1 clean hand, and we will mix and mash this until it's thoroughly combined. And this is one of the few times when we're mixing ground meat where we don't really have to worry about overworking it too much, since traditionally, once cooked, the meat's supposed to have a little bit of a springy texture. Okay, not tough, but slightly springy. And that's partly the reason we added some water to this, which of course is also going to add a little bit of extra juiciness. And that's it. Once that's very thoroughly mixed, we'll go ahead and cover that in plastic. And we'll pop that in the fridge for about an hour or so, or until it's nicely chilled. Okay, cold meat is always easier to handle and shape, plus it will give those spices some time to work their magic. Oh, and while that's happening, let's not forget to soak our wooden skewers in some water so they don't burn up on the grill. And then what we'll do once those have soaked for about an hour, and our meat mixture is nice and cold, we will go ahead and pull that out, and then take 1/8 of the mixture, and we will roll that 2-ounce portion into a nice ball, after wetting our fingers with some of that water we use to soak the skewers. Because as you know, damp hands make smooth balls. And then once we have that into a nice smooth ball, we'll kind of shape it into an oval, and then skewer it, making sure we go right through the center. And then what we'll do once we have that squeezed out to about 3 inches or so, we will also want to kind of taper both ends down to a point, which is not only going to help this stay attached to the skewer, it's also going to make it look super cool and enticing. Okay, as you may have heard me say before, it is a proven scientific fact that people love pointy food. And that's it, exactly how Bob formed his kebabs. And while most people think of chunks of meat on a skewer when they hear kebab, here I'm going to show you the other style of kebab, sometimes referred to as kofta, or kefta, or kufta, that features ground meat. And while both versions are great, this is the style that Bob and I prefer. But anyway, I went ahead and formed the rest to make 8 total, at which point I do like to wrap them and chill them again, although if you wanted, you could cook these right away. But personally, I like these very cold before I cook them. Plus, it's always easier to have things prepped ahead of time. And while those were chillaxing in the fridge, I went ahead and mixed up a quick yogurt sauce, which was simply some plain Greek yogurt, some very finely crushed garlic, a little bit of freshly chopped parsley, as well as some freshly squeezed lemon juice, and then enough fresh cold water to thin this out to the exact consistency we want. And once all that's in there, we'll go ahead and give it a mix. And yes, this would have been way faster and easier with a whisk, but the spoon was already dirty from scooping in the yogurt. And I remember Bob used to always say, the already dirty utensil is always better than the more effective clean utensil. So it took me an extra minute or so, but eventually I got that all stirred together nice and smooth. And no, I didn't add any salt because our meat's going to be very well seasoned, so we should be okay. And we can refrigerate that until needed. And then you remember that third of the seasonings we saved? If we can find it, we're going to go ahead and add a spoon of sumac to this. And if you can't find it, don't stress, but if you can, add it in, as it does add a very interesting sort of sour, tangy, citrus-like flavor. And then what we'll do once that's mixed is pull our Bob's Kebabs out of the fridge, and we're going to season those all over with the rest of our spice mixture. And while you're doing this, if you want to do a little bit of fine-tuning with the shaping, feel free. Oh, and I should mention a lot of the kebab recipes will actually have you add the sumac to the meat mixture, but Bob was a big believer of only putting it on the outside. But anyway, suit yourself. I mean, you are after all the Robert Duvals of these impaled meatballs. But if I'm making something called Bob's Kebabs, I am going to kebab like Bob. and he thought it was better with this just on the outside. And that's it. Once these are set, we can go ahead and cook them up, which I'm going to do by grilling them over some beautiful Japanese-style charcoal. And while, of course, any kind of grill would work, these narrow hibachi-style grills are perfect for skewered meat. But in any event, I'm going to grill these for about 10 to 12 minutes total, turning these about every 3 minutes or so that hopefully the entire surface faces the heat. And as far as doneness goes, you could use a thermometer and cook these to about 135 internal temp. But for me, when they go from feeling kind of mushy to feeling kind of firm and springy, they're usually done. And like I said, these took me about 12 minutes altogether. And that's it. Once I felt those were done, both physically and mentally, I removed those to a plate and headed back inside, where I served those up on a beautiful platter of tomatoes, cucumbers, and red onions that I dressed very lightly with some salt and some olive oil. And after arranging those as shown, I went ahead and scattered over some more freshly chopped parsley. And yes, brushing off some parsley does count as food styling. I also dusted over some more sumac, since that is going to be really good with those vegetables underneath. And of course, we're also going to want some grilled pita bread nearby. And then I went ahead and finished this up by spooning a little bit of that yogurt sauce over the top, which I thought would look nice for the pictures, especially garnished with one last sprinkling of sumac. And that's it. This beautiful batch of Bob's Kebabs is done and ready to enjoy. And for this first one, I'm just going to enjoy it as is right off the skewer. And that, my friends, was just incredible. Okay, I think Bob would have been very proud. Just an incredibly flavorful bite of meat, perfectly seasoned inside and out. And there's just something about lamb spiced this way that when you combine it with the smokiness from the grill, just elevates this to a whole other level. And please stop looking at that parsley on my thumb. And while very delicious plain, what you really want to do is nestle this into some nice warm pita, along with some of those nice cool crisp fresh veggies. And of course, lots of our garlicky lemony yogurt sauce. And if there's a better thing to eat, especially in the middle of grilling season, I just can't think of it right now. And as I mentioned earlier, while I prefer this done with lamb, it's also really good done with beef, or a combination of half and half, which, by the way, Bob was a big fan of. He used to say, why choose when you can have both? But anyway, that's it. How to kebab like Bob. I only wish he was around to see this, and not in the witness protection program, where I'm not able to get him a message. But anyway, hopefully somehow he stumbles across this. And if he did, I think he'd say the same thing I'm going to say now, which is I really do hope you give this a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.